So this is my Zamasu Gogeta Defense Burn deck. 1 copy of the leader. 4 Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta Frenzy Burst. 4 Fused Zamasu Divine Immortal. 4 Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta Rise of Superware. 4 Almighty Push Zeno. 4 Gohan Baby's Minion. 4 Kibito Kai's Attendant. 4 Gowasu Zamasu's Master. 4 Goku and Vegeta Saiyan Synergy. 4 Goku Striving to be the Best. 4 Tragedy Overground. 4 Senzu 4 All Too Easy. 4 Red Giant Force. 4 Gotenks Absolute Unison. And 4 Super Saiyan 4 Goku Protector of the Earth Unison. So of course, this is so this is a more defensive version of Gogeta Burn strategy. So we're definitely adding a little more board wiping, through the effects of Almighty Push Zeno. So we have more of the one card that we can use to clear opponent's board, not just rely on Goku Protector of Earth. And then the floodgate the defense against aggro decks, going wide strategies. So we got, obviously we still using Senzu. We got the Goku and Vegeta Saiyan Synergy, which can essentially send Senzu the leader. It also can go back into the deck, so that further increases our life. As it were, once our leader awakens, our deck becomes our life bar. So being able to put cards back is always useful, especially through the effects of Almighty Push Zeno, because he goes back in the deck after you play him, as well as any other battle card you already had in play. And then, of course, Goku and Vegeta puts themselves to the bottom of your deck after you use their auto. So there's that. And then we have the Gowasu card that you can combo with. So you combo with it, and you can discard a card from your hand and then choose one of these two abilities. But the main ability we're using is the first ability, which is choose up to 3 battle cards with energy cost 3 or more with power 35k or less from your drop area and place at the bottom of your deck. All the battle cards here on the top row are targets for the Gowasu effect. So being able to put even being able to put at least 2 cards back into your deck, can greatly increase your chances of not decking out from your opponent's attack. So it's like, so in this deck it works like rejuvenate. It works as a way of gaining life. Same goes for the Goku and Vegeta and the Almighty Push Zeno. Being able to make sure you have at least 2 cards, because having 1 card is not enough, because once you draw that 1 card, then you end up with no cards in your deck and you lose, unlike other card games. So you need at least 2 cards left in your deck in order to guarantee you get that extra turn. So that's what that stuff is there for. Fuse Zamasu. We rarely use his active main ability. The only time I use it is like when I have 3 life and I want to awaken, so then I'll crit a life and draw a card, and then I can awaken when I have 2 or less life. You definitely want to keep it's up to you how you want to play it. Normally when I have Dimension Magic, which is not in this build, but normally when I have Dimension Magic, I like to have 2 life, because I like to crit one of take one of the life to play Dimension Magic for free and still have a life left. But in this build, since we don't play, you could just allow yourself to go down to 1 before awakening. So because that 1 life does matter. Might as well use that 1 life to take a hit if need be before you awaken. Normally, as soon as I get to 2 life, I want to awaken, but you can just wait until you down to 1 life and then awaken. Alright? Just saying you could, but not really recommending to do that. Just saying that you could do that. A good reason for a counter for that, for not doing that, for awakening at 2, is the possibility that there are some decks that have the ability to warp life or send life from your from your life to the drop or any other location. So it doesn't count as damage. Therefore, it wouldn't be a good idea to be at 1 when there are cards that can potentially do that. For example, Splintering Mind Vegeta. Like my saying, Splintering Minds, he warps a life, 1 life, so you might want to have 2 life just in case you're in that scenario, because you don't want to be at 1 life and then your opponent warps that 1 life and then you just lose, even though you have a shitload of cards in your deck, right? So, just something to keep in mind. The choice is yours how you play. And then on his awakened side, auto, when he attacks you draw a card. Be very careful about that. Of course, we're used to liking attacking, drawing, right? Try and keep our hands thick, and we definitely want the ability to draw, because we can easily run out of gas real quick. So we want to draw through the effect of the leader and through the effect of Raditz, and even Gotenks, even Goku. So we got some draw engines in here. Some cards that can draw us cards. We want to be careful because you do know that's those cards we're drawing is part of our life, right? Once we awaken, so we want to be careful not to put ourselves in a position where we end up decking out, which means losing life, getting KO'd, just because we're trying to have some hand advantage. So gotta be careful with that. But of course we try to mitigate it with cards like Goku, Gowasu, Almighty Push Zeno, trying to put stuff back. Also, another thing about wanting to be careful about not drawing too much is the fact that, remember, we're trying to ramp, so we need cards in our decks for Gogeta, for Vegeta to do his thing and ramp up our energy, so that way we can obviously try to get to our Gogeta strategy. Of course, we have other strategy. We have Fuse the Muscle, 35k indestructible dual attacker is always good, with the ability to help us cheat out Tragedy Overground, which is a really good board wipe. So if you use it right, it can do a lot, especially if you just wait for a while, just keep Fuse the Mouse on the field long enough that when your opponent tries to go off on a turn, you be like, alright, active battle, trigger the effect, set him to drop, bang, Tragedy Overground, board wipe. So there's that. Gogeta, Frenzy Burst, he has Barrier, which is really good. 35k, and his active main, because we're hard casting him for 10. We're not doing anything else, we're just hard casting him for 10. Active main, once per turn, if you have 15 or more energy, choose up to 4 cards in your opponent's life and place them at the bottom of the deck. So this is how we burn our opponent for 4, or up to 4. And then we got Fuse the Mouse of Divine Immortal, of course, indestructible dual attack. Active Bane / Battle. Place this card into the owner's drop area to activate 1 Tragedy Overground from your hand, deck, drop area, or energy area, and then shuffle your deck. So it's never a problem to charge your Tragedy Overground as energy, because you can always play it from your energy area through Fuse the Mouse's ability. Vegeta, of course, 30k blocker, auto, your leader's mono blue, so when you play, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and put all 4 mono blue cards into your energy because you're trying to ramp. And then second auto, at the end of your turn, switch to cards active mode, so wouldn't be a bad idea to attack with this 30k beat stick. So that way you can attack and defend. Sword and shield strategy. Almighty Push Zeno, deflect. Auto, when you play this card, choose all battle cards, return them to the owner's decks then all players who return cards to their deck shuffle the deck. So you play this, and all your battle cards and all your opponent's battle cards back into their deck. This doesn't ignore barrier, but not every battle card that's played has barrier. And of course, if we have to worry if there is barrier, then that's where Goku Protector Earth comes in for that scenario. But this is good just in generic situation where your opponent might just go wide with a whole bunch of free play cards. You just drop this, put everything back. Then we have Gohan, Baby's Minion, counter attack, negate the attack, and play this card. Servant, so it gets 10k boost, so it'll be 25k. Auto, when you play this card, your opponent can't attack for the turn unless they choose one card from the hand, place it at the bottom of their deck. So, again, of course, this is for going wide strategy. Obviously, the idea is to play this to, get an extra turn, to stall out your opponent's going wide board, and then so Zeno them the following turn. Of course, you should attack with Baby's Minion first, since it'll be 25k, swing with that, and then drop Almighty, push Zeno, then Zeno and Baby's Minion will go back in the deck. So that way you can obviously use them later on, and obviously that's 2 cards. I did say you want to at least have 2 cards left in your deck, right? Of course, these will this shuffles. So that's what's really good about this Zeno, is that he shuffles. So if you ever end up in a scenario where you use Goku, and Vegeta to negate an attack and then do a Senzu Bean ability, put it at the bottom of the deck, you could always see it again later if you play Almighty push Zeno, because you'll always shuffle your deck. So it's really nice to have that ability of deck shuffling, especially if you combo with Gowasu and put cards from your drops to the bottom of your deck and then play Zeno and then shuffle. Then you have a higher chance of whatever you put back at the bottom of your deck with Gowasu's effect, you have a higher chance of getting it later, on when you play. So that's, good synergy there. So, moving on. We have, since I'm at Gohan, one thing you want to be able to do, especially if you don't have Senzu Bean, when you drop Vegeta ramp 4, you definitely want to have a Baby's Minion, because remember you have 4 energy, so you definitely want to have you definitely want to have 3 energy for Baby's Minion, but you also want to have 1 energy for either a Goku or All Too Easy. That way you have higher defense, because you have a 30k blocker, plus you have this ability to negate an attack, plus its Floodgate ability, and then the ability to still play a negate or this one, which is a better option, of course, the ability to negate an attack and be able to essentially Senzu Bean your leader. All great synergy right there. So you're trying to get that extra turn, because once you drop Vegeta, yeah, you ramped, but you want that extra turn to take advantage of that ramp. Especially, to be able to play your Fuse Zamasu or your Tragic Overground. Ultimately, you want to play your Fuse Zamasu more than your Tragic Overground. Because you'd rather play Tragic Overground your opponent's turn more so than your turn. Because you want to use it defensively. You definitely want your sword, which is your Fuse Zamasu, and just swing, swing, swing. But then when time comes, you can tragedy your opponent. Oh, what a tragedy it will be, right? And then we got Kabuto Kai's attendant. Obviously, this synergizes with our Gohan to help us keep Floodgating, negate our opponent with Gohan. Also be able to use it with Vegeta to help us ramp even further, in case we didn't draw 2 copies of Vegetas and play one back to back, or get the play where we play a Vegeta, double Senzu Bean, and play a second Vegeta in the same turn. In case we don't get that play, we could always at least use Kabuto Kai, bounce Vegeta back to our hand, play Vegeta, ramp again, and then do something like a Goku Protector Earth play, so that way we can floodgate our opponent, so we can always get that extra turn. It's all about getting extra turns, so that way we can finally get to our Gogeta play. Or at least just getting extra turns so you could just keep swinging at your opponent for game, right? Keep trying to get them down to 0. You don't have to burn your opponent for 4, but it is an option. But I do like the idea of obviously winning through that condition. Where am I at? Oh, that was Gogeta. Yeah, Gogeta, again, lets you bounce your own cards back to your hand by switching to rest mode, and you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, 3 cards, to let them bounce it back to the hand. So it could help you, have a little bit of board control. The less attacks your opponents can do on their turn, the better. Like we also mentioned, we combo with it, so we can put up to 3 battle cards from our drop to the bottom of our deck, so that way we increase our chance of surviving, getting that extra turn. So we could deliberately take a whole bunch of attacks, mill a whole bunch of cards, but then when my opponent's going for the last attack trying to mill us out, we could be like, all right, combo, even though it won't be enough to stop the attack, it'll be enough to put cards back in the deck, so that way when the attack still goes through, we mill, the 5 or 10 cards, depending on, how much damage our opponent's trying to do with that attack. And so, as long as we still have, 3 cards or 2, right? In case we're in that type of scenario where we put 3 cards back, so then we end up with 12 cards, but our opponent, since they double strike, they deal us 10 damage. We mill 10 from that, but at least we'll still have the 2 cards. That way on our turn, we draw a card and still have a card left in our deck, so we don't deck out. So keep that in mind, count your cards. Keeping track of your decks, card count is very important for making your plays. Obviously, playing 2 Gowasus can do 6, cards, and of course that can has the potential of allowing you to be able to take a damage because you'll mill 5 and still have 1 card left. But the goal is always to make sure you have 2 cards left in your deck, so keep that in mind. The more you Gowasu, the more you survive, right? Because he is Zamasu's master, the master. Goku and Vegeta, same synergy, of course, we already mentioned. Negate an attack played in rest mode, and if your opponent attacks your leader card, because your leader card is blue, you can place this card at the bottom of your deck, and then your leader gets 5k power for the duration of the turn. So Senzu Beans, and obviously playing this and then combining with Senzu Beans is always a good combination. But we definitely love to save our Senzu Beans more so for our Gogeta plays, more so than anything. So it's nice to have this as a extra Senzu Bean for defensive plays. We got Goku striving to be the best. Barrier, permanent. Your opponent's battle cards with 2 costs or less can't attack, so that's good against low cost aggro decks. They goes wide with out of cheap 1-drops. Then we got Tragedy Overground, which combos with our Goku striving to be the best, because this helps us prevent our opponent from having 4 costs and higher battle cards in play. So our opponent is limited to 3 drops when it comes to attacking or doing anything. So field card, permanent. This card can't be removed from your battle areas by the skills of your opponent's battle cards, but still can be removed from leader abilities like Broly, OG Broly, right? Set 1 Broly, Zeno, Unison, and things of that nature, but not from battle cards, so that's something. Second permanent, when your opponent plays a battle card with an energy cost of 4 or more, is placed into the energy area in rest mode instead. So that's important. And then we have the auto. When this card is active, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and place them into the owner's energy in rest mode. So it's a high cost board wipe, but it is a good board wipe. Senzu Bean, active battle, choose up to 1 of your cards and it gets 5k power for the duration of the turn. Then choose up to 2 of your energy and switch to active mode. A good card to use Senzu Bean on if you want to go aggro, right? Would be Fuse Zamasu, Divine Immortal, because he has dual attack. Same goes for Gotenks Absolute Using, because he has dual attack. So being able to Senzu Bean, get them strong and just swing more than once is always good. especially if you're using it to attack battle cards and KO them. You know, so that's always good. Line of play. But mainly we like to use Senzu Bean more for our Vegeta, but there are times where you gotta use it to survive a turn. So there's that. All too easy. Counterattack. Your leader's blue, negate an attack. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 1 and return to owner's hands. Ironically, that effect tends to suck sometimes, because sometimes the 1-drops tend to be good for your opponent, and bouncing it back to the hand tends to be a problem. There's a couple times where I used it to bounce a 1-drop back to my opponent's hand, and all they did was replay it and use it to attack, and it's like, yeah, I should just left that 1-drop alone. It wasn't doing nothing to nobody until I bounced it back to the hand. I noticed I do that sometimes. It's just because I want to use the effect. Like, I literally look at my opponent's board and look for 1-drop to try to bounce, but it's like, why though? It ain't that deep. So that part of the effect tends to be not so good. But it can come in handy. It can come in handy. Then we have the permanent. If this card is in your drop area, you can activate this card from your drop by paying its cost and warping it and another blue card from your hand from the game. And then, of course, auto, when you activate this card, you can't activate other copies of this card for the turn, so it's a once per turn ability. So you can play only 1 a turn. So keep that in mind. Even if you have multiple copies and enough energy to play multiple copies, you can only play 1. And you know, it's good because at least you get 2 uses out of them for each copy. So not a problem using them to negate stuff, because you can always use it later when you really need it. Raz Giant Force, 19k blocker. Auto, when you activate the blocker skill, you switch back to active mode, so that way you can block, again. So you get 2 blocks off of 1 card, which is always good, because you always have to take into account that your opponent's going to have a leader swing, a unison swing, and at least 1 battle card swing. So that's 3 attacks that you have to take into account whenever you're playing. So you always want to reduce the amount of attacks. Want to make sure they don't have a unison, they don't have a battle card, so that way all they have is the leader swing, right? But sometimes you can't reduce their potential attacks, so you gotta block as much as you can, defend as much as you can. So always gotta keep your defense up. Plus 0 ability, active main, draw 1 card. At the end of your turn, switch this card to active mode, so that way you can attack with it. So it's not just a wall, you can actually use it as a sword, so attack something with it. Use this ability to draw a card, and then at the end of the turn, restand it so you can block 2 attacks on your opponent's turn, which is really nice. And then it has the -2 ability, where you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards, return it to the owner's hand. Then at the end of your turn, switch one of your blue energy to active mode, so that way, you can definitely have the blue energy necessary for a Goku and Vegeta play, or a All Too Easy play, or a Senzu Bean play. Obviously, something you can do is play Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, ramp 4, use 3 for Raditz. Then you can use Raditz -2 ability to bounce 20 points battle cards back to the hand, so that way they have less things to attack with on their next turn. Plus you have this as to block. You can potentially block 2 attacks with this. If it survives the first attack, of course, because it will have only 1 marker. Survive the first attack, then it has the potential to stop a second attack, and then you have Vegeta, which can potentially stop a 3rd attack. So at least you have 3 attacks you can stop. Plus you will be untapping energy, so you'll still have 2 energy, so you can be able to make a All Too Easy play, but also still be able to make a Goku Vegeta same play, or use one of the energies for Senzu Bean, so that we can end up at 3 energy, and then use that 3 energy for a Gohan play. So that way you're putting up the floodgate defense of Gohan Baby's Minion, aka the blue Topo, but also still have blockers as a second line of defense. So you're putting up 2 defensive walls. I always like having blockers behind Topo, so I definitely want blockers behind Baby's Minion. in case my opponent wants to take the challenge, especially if they have a library in their hand. They might want to take the topo challenge, as they say, or the baby minion challenge, and attack me anyway. It's like, alright, well, at least I still have blockers, still have ways to defend. So those are some lines of plays you can do there. We mentioned also easy, we're at Reddits, and alright, Go Tanks. Absolute Unison, 20k dual attack, so you can attack with it, restand it by its effect, and then use it to block, so that we can have a sort of shield strategy, or attack with it twice. Apply pressure, you can use it to attack unisons, twice, so you can knock off 2 markers per swing. And sometimes I use this to try to get rid of blue unisons, because I don't want to get God Sealed, right? God Sealing Trunks, because God Sealing Trunks does hurt the Gogeta, and yeah, it could hurt the Zamasu and the Vegeta play. Can't hurt the Cell Zeno play. I mean the the Almighty Push Zeno play, but it could definitely hurt. It could definitely hurt everything else. Definitely could hurt the baby minion play, right? So keep that in mind. Then we got the -2 ability, which lets us draw 2 cards, which is good if you need to fill up your hand in case your opponent. In case you lost a lot of cards from your hands, you can try to fill them back up through this effect on the leader swing. I've done that a couple times. Refill my hands through playing 2 of these. Using this card's effect -2 twice, and then play a second copy, or play 1 copy, -2, draw 2, swing with it twice, then play the second copy, -2, draw 2, and then swing with it twice. And applied a lot of pressure, but also be able to fill up my hands. So done stuff like that before. Obviously, all you need is 8 energy, which won't be that hard if you ramp with Gogeta to have 8 energy to do 2 Go Tanks in the same turn. Same goes for playing the Go Tanks. Do the -3 ability to clear 2 of your opponent's battle cards, and if they still have battle cards, like especially if they have a lot, you can do the dual attack thing, attack twice to get rid of some cards, some battle cards to attack, or at least force your opponent to combo cards from the hands to try to protect those cards, which is just as good because they're losing hand advantage in that situation. And then play the second copy, do the -3, get rid of the cards you were attacking in the first place if they went out of the way to protect the battle cards. Get rid of them anyway, so that way it was a waste that they defended their battle cards. And then keep it up and attack with this instead of dual attack with it, restand it, and use it as a shield, of course, or attack with it twice if need be to further apply pressure or to clear points board, that kind of stuff. So it depends on the situation. And then we have Almighty Push Goku, right? His auto, when you play this card during your opponent's next turn, they can't attack with battle cards unless they choose one of their other battle cards with energy cost 2 or more and place it at the bottom of their deck. And then has the -2 ability, choose all your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and return to their owner's hand. So that's the Almighty Push part. So with these 2 effects combined, pretty much can get yourself an extra turn. He's a 15k, so take advantage of attacking with him. Especially against like a unison or something to knock off markers. And then he does have the -1 ability where you draw 2 cards and then take 1 card from your hand and put it at the bottom of your deck. So that's the thing. And what else? Think if there's any strategy to share. You don't just playing Vegeta twice should be more than enough for you to ramp up to 15 energy. So that shouldn't be that much of a problem. That's why being able to play 2 Vegetas using 2 Senzu Beans in the same turn is good. We don't ramp to Vegeta, so we don't have a way to get to Vegeta, sooner than turn 6. So the idea, obviously, is we're stalling through, through playing our unisons, for example. So like, or our, baby's minion. We're keeping our defenses up so we can get those extra turns, because we're obviously stalling for, being able to turn 6 drop Vegeta, especially after we already played our Goku. So being able to play Goku, get an extra turn, play Vegeta, ramp, and then potentially use the energy we ramped for, baby's minion, or Raditz play, or whatever. We gotta keep our defenses up. Always keep that in mind. Just keep your ability to defend, because your main attacker would normally be your leader. And you only really need to do 4. If you do any more than that, you're just adding more cards, more options, right? More cards to your opponent's hand to potentially use against you. So keep that in mind. You really only need to do 4 damage, just to put your opponent in kill range. Technically, you can do 3 damage, get them down to 5, and then when you're going to do your Gogeta play, that's when you you can sway with the leader and stuff like that, and whatever else you have. Like maybe you have should more likely have this unison in play, or even this unison, because obviously you only need 10 to play him, so you can obviously afford 4 energy to play this, and then use this ability, the fact that there's a dual attack with it twice, and try to get your opponent down to 4, and then from 5 life down to 4, then drop Gogeta and finish your opponent off, because you only need 10 for him. So that right there is total of 14 energy just to play those 2 cards in the same turn, and that should greatly increase your your chances of winning the game. Without what I'm saying is, obviously the idea is to prevent them from getting enough cards in the hand, especially if they are losing cards through battling and they're not really gaining much, and the only way they was gaining any cards was from your attacks. Then you want to reduce that, right? You don't want to give them too many. Or if you end up in a scenario where your opponent just so happens to have 5 life because they were defending themselves pretty well, that it was hard to get them down to 4. Before you go for this turn, and then try to get them down to 1. Just try to get that 1 damage in there to get them to 4, and then bang, drop the Gogeta for game. So there's that. Again, it's all about just keeping your defense up, playing, getting in the habit of being defensive, and planning for how many attacks your opponent could do on their turn, and minimize it as much as possible, or at least make sure you have enough defense against it, enough stopping power, as they say. And then, just 15 energy, Gogeta, GG. It's simple. Not rocket science. It just requires a little bit of practice to stall long enough to get this bad boy out there and win the game. So, and he's awesome. That's the end of the video.